Not too long ago, I was all in for buying the Cirrus Vision Jet. I was ready to make the upgrade and thought it was the perfect choice, but here I am now, second guessing that decision. And you're going to be amazed at what I found out. Let's dive into it. If you want to check out that video that over 100,000 people that have watched of me flying the Cirrus Vision Jet for the first time, you can go watch that here. A couple years ago, I bought the Cirrus SR-22 Turbo, and it's been a phenomenal aircraft. It's powerful, it's versatile, it's perfect for a lot of the short trips that I take, but I've been on the hunt for a new upgrade, something that can fly further and faster. Naturally, my next step was to upgrade to the Cirrus Vision Jet. It seemed like a no-brainer. More speed, more space, and who doesn't want to fly a jet? And it also has the parachute just like my SR-22 Turbo and the Avionics that are very similar that would make it a natural transition. And the Vision Jet is absolutely beautiful inside. Outside, it's okay, but it would do. But what's interesting, after sharing my plan with all of you and reading through the comments of other videos where I compare different aircraft and small jets, I started to rethink the whole upgrade. People have been suggesting all kinds of alternatives, and one type of airplane that kept popping up was a single engine turboprop. At first I kind of ignored it, but after diving in a little bit more to turboprops, they seem to be less expensive and the maintenance is quite a bit less because you only have one turboprop engine to maintenance rather than two jet engines. But a lot of people said that a twin engine was better because if you had one engine go out, you had the other. So most jets are twin engines, right? But of course with the Cirrus Jet, you do have the parachute, which may not be quite as good as having a second engine. Do you kind of see where I'm getting a little bit confused? So many different options and so many different ways to go. By the way, if you have any opinions on these aircrafts that I'm getting ready to cover, or if you have another aircraft that you think would be good, please do let me know in the comments. That's one of the reasons I do these videos, is to kind of talk through this out loud, but then also to get opinions from other people to make sure I'm making the right decision. I do plan on making my decision in the next year once I'm 100% certain, but I feel like I still have quite a bit of homework to do. Because you think about it, it is a multi-million-dollar purchase. So as I started looking into single engine planes, it seemed like the two that came up the most are the TBM 850 and the Pilatus PC-12. And I've got to say, this really caused me to pause and think. These turboprops might not quite have the jet factor, but they do offer a lot in terms of performance, payload, range, and even operating cost. For example, the TBM 850 with its 320 knot cruise speed is right up there with a Vision Jet of 300 knots. The range is also comparable and it can carry more weight. On the other hand, the PC-12 can carry more passengers and can also carry more weight. It has just a better payload capacity. It's perfect for longer trips when you want to haul a lot of gear or a lot of people. So let's do a side-by-side comparison of the TBM 850 and the Pilatus PC-12, and then we'll throw this Cirrus Jet in the mix. By the way, if you like seeing these videos, please like and subscribe. I spend my own time and money making these videos, and the only thing I ask to do to pay me back is just, again, like and subscribe. That's it. And of course, your feedback would be appreciated as well. Let's start with the exterior. Both are very similar. Neither are a jet, that's obvious. The TBM 850 is a little smaller. The Pilatus is a little bigger. It has one more passenger window and is a little longer. They both have two doors to get into the cabin. The TBM has one door in the front for the pilot and a convenient door in the back for passengers. The Pilatus is very similar, but has the front door that allows the pilot and the passengers to get in that door. So it could move things along a little bit quicker when loading. If I had to pick these two for the exterior, it would be the Pilatus because it's bigger and the door is a bit more convenient when getting in and out of the airplane. Then you have the Cirrus Jet that I've shown in other videos. This is a jet, so it does look like a jet, even though I've joked that it looks a little bit like a fish. So if you add this in the mix, I would probably for looks alone pick the Cirrus Jet because I'm just a big fan of jets. Now the interior. The TBM 850 are mostly older airplanes. For that reason, the interiors are a bit dated. If you buy a Pilatus, there are newer versions of this airplane. So if you buy an older Pilatus, it's similar to most TBMs, but look at the newer, nicer interiors of the newer Pilatus PC-12s. This is a big advantage if you want luxury. So now there are two big differences in these planes when it comes to the interior. First is the size and the amount of seats, which I will get into later, but the other is the Pilatus has an enclosed bathroom where if you want a bathroom in the TBM 850, you have the option for an open toilet. Not ideal if you have other passengers and need to go, but if you have to go often, this is a good option. Luckily, you don't fly more than about 3 hours on the TBM. So if you add the Cirrus Jet into the mix, I love Cirrus Jet because they have newer, nicer interiors that are just luxury. That is the reason that I like the Cirrus Jet in the beginning and why I ordered one. So if it was looks alone, I would say the Cirrus Jet, but because the Pilatus, you can find newer planes with nicer interiors and the fact that it has a enclosed bathroom and the Cirrus Jet does not, the Pilatus wins here. Not to mention the Pilatus just carries more people. Now let's jump into the specs. All right, let's start with cruise speed, service ceiling, and max range. The maximum cruise speed for a TBM 850 is 320 knots, while the Pilatus PC-12 is just 285 knots. The service ceilings are very similar. TBM 850 can go 31,000 feet and the Pilatus can go 30,000 feet. So still above some weather, but not quite as high as some twin engine jets. The maximum range for TBM 850 is 1,730 miles, whereas the Pilatus PC-12 is 1,800 miles. So here's where you start seeing some change. The seating capacity for a TBM 850 is about 6 passengers. In fact, most of the things I read, it's really probably closer to 5 passengers. Whereas the Pilatus PC-12 can be anywhere from 6 passengers up to 9 passengers, depending on the configuration. The payload for the TBM 850 is 1,200 pounds, where the Pilatus PC-12 is 2,200 pounds. That's where the big difference comes into play, I feel, with these two airplanes. The fuel capacity is 292 gallons for the TBM 850, and the max capacity for Pilatus PC-12 is 402. The fuel burn for the TBM 850 is 55 gallons per hour, whereas the Pilatus PC-12, probably because it is heavier, is 70 gallons per hour. Here's what could help make my decision as well. The avionics for the TBM 850 can be a G1000, which would be a very similar system to my G1000 and my Cirrus SR22 Turbo, whereas the Pilatus PC-12 is a Honeywell system that I would have to learn from scratch. Another thing to consider is the TBM 850 is a little bit smaller, so if I'm looking for hangar space, the Pilatus PC-12 is actually going to take up more space, so that's something to consider. All right, so let's jump into prices for these two aircrafts. So the TBM 850, I've seen that you can buy a used version for about $2 million, whereas the Pilatus PC-12 is going to be closer to about $2.5 million. If you want to buy these two new, you're looking at about $3.4 million for a brand new TBM 850, whereas a Pilatus PC-12, you're going to start at $4 million, and if you really soup it up, you could spend about $4.8 million. When I looked at these, I thought, man, those are crazy numbers for a single engine plane, but they perform very similar to some other jets. So let's compare the Cirrus Jet to these other two planes. So the Cirrus Jet goes about 300 knots, which is very comparable to the other two. You have a service ceiling of 31,000 feet, which is very similar again to the other two. Here's where I'm very surprised. You would think that jets go a lot further and a lot faster, right? Well, in this case, a Cirrus Jet only goes 1,200 nautical miles, whereas the TBM and the Pilatus are going to go about 500 to 600 miles longer. The Cirrus Jet is configured for 7 people, but by doing the math and knowing what I know about the Cirrus SR22 Turbo, you're really not going to be able to fit 7 people in there unless you have at least 3 small kids. So it's probably going to be closer to about 5 to 6 people. The payload is similar to the TBM 850, which is 1,350 pounds. Fuel capacity 239, which is a little bit lower than even the TBM 850. Fuel burn is very similar to the Pilatus at 70 gallons per hour. The avionics is the G1000, which again is similar to my SR22 Turbo. And then when you look at price, the price is very similar to the TBM 850. $2 million for a used aircraft. And Cirrus hasn't been making Vision Jets that long, so you can't find any that are that old, which is a good thing and bad thing, of course. And price for a new Cirrus Vision Jet is about $3.5 million. So while the Vision Jet is very sleek and still fast, these single engine turboprops have their own advantages. They're reliable, fuel efficient, and in many cases, more versatile than I initially thought. This is where I need your help. One of the things that really helps me is when you all chime in with your thoughts. If you know anything about these planes, flown any of these planes, or have any others that I haven't considered, please let me know in the comments. What's your experience with single engine turboprops versus any kind of jets that you've flown? I've actually done some other comparison videos where I actually took a Phenom Phenom 100 against an Eclipse 550. So you can go check that video out if you want to. So between these three airplanes, if I had to choose right now, I would say the Pilatus might be in the lead. The thing that would hold me back, it is more expensive, it does burn more fuel, and I would have to learn a new avionics system, which wouldn't be the end of the world. It would be nice to carry more passengers and bring more people with me if I wanted to. The TBM 850 does seem enticing because it does have the G1000, but also you can go an extra 40 knots. So while when you're traveling short distance isn't a huge deal, if you're going across the country, could save you a lot of time and effort. So like I've explained in some other videos, I buy airplanes because it's fun, it's convenient, it saves me a lot of time, but also it saves me a lot of money in taxes. So if you want to watch that video on how I save money on taxes, I'll put it here at the end. People also ask me, how can I afford an airplane? Some people even question whether I really can afford these kind of airplanes. Well, I've been in business for 23 years now. I've built a pretty substantial real estate portfolio, and I actually have multiple businesses that afford me to buy planes and do things like this. In fact, I have another channel where I talk more about business and real estate. If you go down into the description, there's a link for that channel. So again, I hope you like this video. Please like and subscribe. I do a lot of aviation videos, comparison videos like this. I'm going to start flying more jets and going out actually into the field to go into these jets. So if you want to be notified when I do that, please again, subscribe, and we will see you on some of our next videos.